Madison, what kinds of resources or things would you point people towards? I know that these are not simple problems to solve,
Right.
but I'd love to hear if you have any particular recommendations on how people could get started.
Yeah. And I mean, you took the words out of my mouth of just accepting what you can't control. You know, you can't control other people, you can't control how they think or how they feel. Easier said than done, obviously, with that form of acceptance, but just even starting there and it just accepting what you can control, what you yourself can do for you is super important. And when we're looking at these sorts of things and how to cope, focusing on your strengths, focusing on what you know to be true about yourself, because as I was mentioning earlier, feelings of hopelessness and worthlessness can come up a lot and it can be incredibly heavy. So focusing in on your strengths, digging into that family of choice and helping them to elevate you in that sense. You know, something I offer to clients sometimes, especially when talking about problematic family members, is write a letter. And that's a letter that you never have to send. That's a letter where you get to say everything you want to say to them, everything you want to tell them, but you just can't. Maybe one day you will show it to them. Maybe one day when you get to a chance of get to a point of healing in the relationship, maybe that's something you will share. But you may never send it. And it can feel incredibly healing to just get those feelings out, you know, get them on paper. Geo, who called in earlier, gave a really good recommendation when he said he was going to hop off and go meditate. That's just another piece where if you can really hone in on some mindfulness-based practices, even just simple breathing exercises or meditations that you can, you know, pull up from the internet. There's tons of free ones out there. There's tons of apps. Focusing on yourself, getting back to that mind-body connection, as I mentioned earlier, is super important so you can stay in tune with yourself as you're trying to heal. You know, you should only allow someone to be a part of your life if they exhibit good, consistent actions where they demonstrate that they're there to be part of that healing and growth process ultimately. And you know, I think some piece that we sometimes forget about with family when we're dealing with that alienation or dealing with that separation is planning ahead for important dates in your life, such as your birthday or a holiday that usually is spent with family, and planning ahead to be able to, you know, do something or be with that family of choice on those days. So it doesn't just creep up on you and you realize you don't have anywhere to go, or, you know, those feelings of rejection maybe sink in a little bit more. So plan ahead for things like that. You know, when we're talking about seeking deeper long-term healing, individual therapy is always a really, really good option. Another thing that I don't think people necessarily consider, or maybe doesn't come to mind, is group therapy or processing group. If you just type in Google search family of origin processing group, hopefully there is one near you, because this is so common that there are typically groups in your area that will offer that type of support. And just being able to be amongst other people that are kind of going through similar but different circumstances and finding that universality in it can be incredibly healing, incredibly important in your own journey to, you know, accepting what is. So yeah, just a couple of recommendations. And then I know Christy said earlier, I gave him a couple of resources as far as books and things that are linked, you know, in the video. So check those out. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's exactly the right response. I mean, get thee to a therapist if this is something that is
Yeah.
really itching over a long period of time. You know, I'll mention just very briefly that I am myself about to offer a process group specifically for people healing from religious trauma. And so if that's you out in this audience and that's something you'd like to consider, check that out at valencecounseling.com. We've got a number of different books and resources in the show notes to this episode, not the least of which Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents by Lindsay Gibson, which is a great place to start. There's a number of those resources as well as Maddie's blog on this topic listed. Madison, other than your blog and some of those kinds of resources, how can people find you if they're interested in therapy, if they're interested in diving in a little bit deeper to healing from some of these issues?
Sure. So my website is sunandmooncounseling.com. So, just as you would think it's spelled, Sun and Moon Counseling. And I am in the Austin area, so I'm able to work with anybody in Texas via telehealth. And I'm available and definitely acquiring interest to start my own family of origin processing group as well.
Excellent. Well, glad to hear that there are a number of things that people can turn towards in these moments. On top of that, I, of course, want to mention Recovering from Religion. Recoveringfromreligion.org in particular is a great place to start. It's, if nothing else, a hub to a number of resources, particularly resources in your area, that is going to be sort of curated and in a way provided to you by somebody who's probably sat in a chair very similar to the one you're in right now. There's an incredibly talented group of volunteers that are remarkably compassionate and happy to help point you towards something in your area. And of course, we want to encourage people to embrace their chosen family here at the atheist community of Austin. We have, of course, a number of great ACA Facebook groups. Just this past week, we had a couple of our wonderful mods and volunteers create a fan page for this very program. So if you are interested in a little bit more secular sexuality in your life, I have to show just incredible gratitude for the volunteers that have set that up for us. Check out Secular Sexuality. What is the actual terminology? Let me pull that up real quickly. I apologize. The Secular Sexuality official fan group, unofficial fan group on Facebook. And outside of that, be in the Discord server. Be connecting with folks online. Be in community, whether that is with friends, whether that is with just like-minded folks. It can be really isolating out there right now. And so I hope that everybody is doing their best to take care of themselves.
Yeah. If you want to get in touch with us on the show and don't feel comfortable maybe calling in, or if you don't like staying up super, super late like Linda does, then feel free to email us at sex@atheist-community.org. About once a month, we have a mailbag episode where we read all the emails that we get from you guys and answer them on air. We also have a hotline that is not as utilized as we would like. So help us feel special and give us a call there at 512-666-0-ASK. And leave a voicemail, and we will play that on air and answer your question there. So there are ways to get in touch with us, to ask your questions, to update us if you've called before and want to give us kind of where you are now, the lay of the land, without having you call in live if that's not your cup of tea.